All right, so we just got done last week recording a, series of events, having these aha moments on trading as a business. We had four different events. If you haven't seen that, we've got them recorded for you. So you can take a look. And this is kind of an extension of that. In all businesses, there's a lot of planning that has to be involved. Certainly in trading, there's a lot of planning that has to be involved. So we're going to talk today about the trading plan. Now, I was, a struggling trader for a long time, and so for about 7 years, I was always out there looking for information about trading, and there was no shortage of information out there, some good, some bad, um, and a lot of it very confusing. And part of my confusion was the trading plan. There were so many ways to create a trading plan. Even if you define trading plan one way that you think it is, and it's actually, other people might define it another way. So the whole idea of a trading plan was something that I heard that I needed to do. It was something that, as a real trader, as a serious trader, as somebody who's trying to generate a regular and consistent income at trading, must have. Okay, so I started thinking about how am I going to go about this plan or developing this plan. You always hear that a goal without a plan is just a wish. And that is absolutely true. If you say, well, I'm going to, someday I'm going to do this. Well, if you don't have a plan for it, you're just wishing for that thing to happen. I know a lot of you can get into trade sometimes, and maybe it didn't fit your rules. Maybe it didn't go quite along with whatever system it is that you're trying to trade. Maybe it was, kind of in a gray area for you, but you find yourself in a trade, and maybe the conditions that got you into the trade have changed. And rather than managing that trade, you decide, you know what, I'm already in the trade. Let's just see what happens. I hope it goes in my direction. All right? That's not much of a plan. Okay? So as I was looking for information about trading and how I could be a more effective trader, how I could be a more professional trader and approach trading more seriously, I found that the trade plan came up an awful lot in all of the, whether I'm reading and trading forums or watching videos on YouTube or in somebody's trade room. There was always this conversation about a trade plan. And to me, I really didn't think I needed a trade plan because I still didn't know how to trade. Okay? I was still struggling on a daily basis to understand this whole trading thing and to gain any kind of traction before I started developing a plan. To me, I was still trying lots of different things. I was from one day to the next, heck, from one trade to the next. I would try something new. I would try something different. So how can you have a plan if you're still trying to figure this thing out? But I know that I needed one, right? Or I knew that I needed one. So I started kind of looking around, and I think I did the same thing a lot of you do. And that is that I hit the old Googler and I started looking for a trade plan template. Now I know you can go do a search for trade plan template and you will find thousands and thousands of them. So, of course, it seems logical to cut the work down to just filling in some blanks, right? That's what I had decided. That's all I needed. Because I needed a plan, right? I had to have a plan. That's what all of the posts in the trading forums said. That's what all of the trading gurus said. You gotta have a trade plan and you gotta follow your plan. Okay, so I'm gonna get a trade plan and I'm gonna whoop it out so I can say I've got a plan. Yep. Look, right over there, you can see it. There's a piece of paper over there. That's my plan. So you slide it out of the way, just knowing that you did that piece of work required to be considered a real trader. Okay, that thing that I can now check off my list. All right. That is to me what a trade plan was. But I'm here to tell you trade plan is something very different than I thought it was, and probably very different than what many of you think it is. A trade plan is actually a very dynamic document. There is no end point to the plan. And the value of the trade plan is not the plan itself. The value of the trade plan is the development, redevelopment, tuning of that plan on a regular basis. The value is in the process. Now remember, there is no endpoint, so I'm going to go through these in a minute, but first you got to start thinking about stuff. Then you got to start studying. Then you start writing the plan. Then you edit the plan. Then you implement the plan. Then you start thinking again. The process continues on and on and on. There is no end point, and this is a trade plan. I'm going to come back to this in just a couple of minutes. So I started thinking, okay, so I need to develop a plan. How do I start? So here's a kind of a way to approach a trade plan. Consider you've got this cube, this big cube, and you're trying to fill it up with these balls of knowledge, balls of things that you know about trading and about what it is you're trying to accomplish in trading. And you take a ball and you put it in the cube, and you do what you consider is filling the cube with balls. Those balls are the pieces of your trade plan. Okay, this cube is your plan. Well, you can look at that cube and you could say, well, it's full. But is it really? I'm going to say it's probably less than half full. Because if you look at the spaces between the balls, there's always room for more information. There's always room for more balls. There's no limit to how many balls you can put into this space, because you can get forever smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller balls to fit between the bigger balls. Okay? You think about that as a trade plan, then you understand there is no finishing this trade plan. You're continually taking pieces of information and adding them to the plan. Okay? So here's how I suggest that a lot of our traders get started. So this is the trade plan. Okay, this is basically a box that you were looking down into. So we're going to take these knowledge bubbles about trading, and our mission is to fill the box with these bubbles so that there's no space left. Yes, I know, I just told you. You can't do that, but your mission is to try. So the first thing you want to do to start to fill this box with bubbles is let's take a couple of statements and let's write down on a legal pad. You know, a lot of times you don't know where to start. This is a good place to start. On one side of the legal pad, you're going to write down what I know to be true. For example, under these conditions, I will always take a trade. Or under these conditions, I will never take a trade. Okay? Very simple. That'll get you started filling your box with knowledge bubbles about your trades and trade plan. Okay? Now those may not take up much space, but they will grow over time. So now we have to start looking at the things that are not as obvious. The things that you're not quite sure fit your trade plan or not. Well, you have to know whether they will or not. There can be no gray areas in your trade plan. When a set of conditions exist as defined in your trade plan, that's when you take a trade. If those conditions, if a set of conditions exist and it looks good to you, can you refer to your trade plan exactly for that particular trade setup? So for example, let's think of a trade plan as your job description at work. If I gave you a trade plan to trade my account for me, and I said, this is all you have to know. You trade these trades, you don't trade these trades, and that's all you need to know. And then at the end of the day, you came to me and you said, okay, let's do our trade review, and let me show you what I did. Could you at any point in time during that conversation refer back to the trade plan exactly? If I said, well, why did you do that? You could say, because right here in my trade plan it says to do that. That's how clear you have to be. When you're writing your trade plan, you can't have vague references to things like, oh, you'll say maybe some momentum, or a lot of momentum, or very little. Those are all vague terms. You need to write very specifically what a lot of momentum is, or what very little momentum is. So, such that if you hired somebody else to trade your trading account for you, you could hand them that trade plan and you will know that they are not going to do any discretionary trading with your money. You don't want people trading your money with discretionary rules. When I started doing this, my mission was to write it out for my son, who at the time had no interest in trading whatsoever. He now is a very good trader. But at the time, he was more interested in skateboarding and hanging out and had zero interest in trading. But I was thinking, okay, let's say he wanted to be a trader and I wanted him to work for me and trade my account. This plan needs to be so clear and concise. There's, number one, no way he could make a mistake, and number two, I could trust him completely because I know everything that's in that plan, and that there's no way he could misunderstand. Okay? So let's say we started saying we have the things we know to be true, we know the things to be not true. Now we're gonna hit some of these. You're gonna be trading and you're gonna go, oh, do I have a plan for this? I think that meets my trade plan, but I'm not sure. So the next thing you need to do is go look at that thing after trading, not during trading, because if you're not sure, what do? You certainly don't trade, right? Because you don't know whether it's part of your trade plan or not, so you don't trade it. But as soon as trading is over, you go review that, you go look through your plan, and you decide, okay, this particular circumstance is not in my plan. What do I do with it? Do I trade it? Do I not trade it? Well, that's probably going to generate an opportunity for you to do some research, for you to study other circumstances that meet the same criteria, so that you can now definitively say that yes, that particular circumstance has a very strong edge and I'm going to trade it. And now you add it to your trade plan. You see how the process of the trade plan, number one, is never done, but number two is actually more important than the plan itself. You know how much you're going to learn during the process of studying each and every potential trade setup or opportunity that arises during a trading session over time. That's going to be a lot of different setups. That's going to be a lot of opportunity to study and back study over weeks and months of charts to see where these other opportunities are. Okay? That process is a huge learning opportunity, and you do not want to miss that. So you start just filling this box, and you start filling it with the balls of these things that are maybe true, not true, but you're going to study each and every circumstance to determine how it's going to get dealt with in the trade plan. This is a time-intensive, labor-intensive bit of work that you need to do on a regular basis until that trade plan is ironclad and very tight. And even then, you still need to review it, because I promise you, if you think that you can write a trade plan and it's always going to be the same, you're sorely mistaken. It's going to change regularly over time. The markets change, opportunities change, new systems come up, new indicators, all kinds of new things change in the markets. So we're going to be changing our trade plan on a regular basis, which really isn't that hard once you've developed it and you know it inside and out. Okay? Now, I said we're going to come back to this. So we've got this plan. This is our plan here. What is it that we're going to be thinking about? Well, you have to, as you develop a trade plan, you have to understand what type of trader you want to be, and not profitable, because that's a given, right? You need to identify your particular risk tolerance levels. You need to identify what type of trading is right for you. You know, do you like to put on a trade and sit and just kind of watch and wait? Do you need more activity throughout the day? Do you like to trade once or twice a week? Once or twice a day? Once or twice an hour? Once or twice every 10 minutes? You have to know what type of trader it is that you want to be, and what type of trading that you want to do. So you got to think about that. You're going to study the markets, the best markets for you, whether you want to trade options or futures or stocks or whatever. You need to study and understand the markets. You need to study different trading systems, different styles, which ones have the proven record over time, which ones are repeatable, easily without a lot of gray area. What are the rules of the system? You got to study each system's setup rules. Maybe the replay of trade rooms videos. You want to study all that stuff that you can. Then you start writing things down. Remember, trades I will always take, trades I will never take. That's a great place to start. What do you do? What's the rule? You write this in your trade plan. The rule for a setup coming up and you're not sure what to do. What is your rule for that? You need a rule for that. Something like, I'll write it down and I'll go look for 100 other examples of that rule of this particular setup, and I'll do the study, and if it works out, I'll write it into the trade plan as a rule. Even things like trading hours and your limits, whether you have a limit on your profits for the day or your stops for the day or whatever. So you will actually eventually, of course, up front, the building of the trade plan is going to be the most time intensive part. Eventually, over time, as you gain confidence in your plan and your trading system and your ability to consistently make a regular income, you will reread the plan. I always recommend reading it daily before you start trading. And as you reread the plan, some things may occur to you that happen throughout the week. You're like, you know what? I do see that here. That trade setup did meet my plan, but I need to rewrite this in such a way that it's more clear, so that if I ever handed this plan off to somebody else, they would know exactly what to do. Okay? So then we got to put the whole thing into practice. And then you start the whole process over again. Okay? So the trade plan is something that is absolutely essential. It is not a static document. It's a dynamic process that never ends. All right? All right. Well, thanks for joining me. Everybody have a great day. We'll see you soon.